Hello everybody, we're back. Welcome to Ultimate Virtual. We're here for Season 5 now. How the time has flown. We're back at Adelaide. This was the starting point last season. It hosted the final sprint for the foreseeable future in Ultimate Virtual. Before that format was scrapped for this season and the remainder of last season. And it holds a new qualifying format here today. We'll talk a bit more about that later. First, briefly, a review of last season. Reto, in the final race, in the final laps, got the extra point he needed, edging himself ahead of Grandi with that race win to win the World Drivers' Championship by a single point. Meneka was in third. He couldn't get that second place, which would have been all he needed to take that title, putting three drivers 2 points apart. Then we've got some other news. We've got Ikolowski left the grid. Andries has gone to Kolos Dvorca, as you'll see from the new lineups, new teams. It should be a really exciting season ahead of us. A few changes around from this set of teams and set of drivers from last time. BFX won the championship in the end. It was rather comfortable, although 5 teams went into contention on the final day. Now you can see here our upgrades and our index, and you've got the new colours of the teams, and we've got a new order. It's been a new regulation. The teams and drivers had the pre-season upgrades to look forward to, as we see Antti currently on provisional pole. The pre-season upgrades and then some round 1 upgrades, and ThunderX have come away best. Funnily enough, quite an interesting strategy. They've gone purely for acceleration and grip and then got a speed just as round 1 came about. Neon Sunset Racing newly rebranded and a new constructor in the place of British Aerial Virtual, and then Team Velocity with their new mahogany colour, the third fastest car, Fox, who were born out of the ashes of WTech, selling Trixie, ending the legacy of that team and selling off the assets to former driver Fox, of which the team is aptly named after. Porsche still in there. BFX, funnily enough, only the 6th fastest car at the moment. FVR, KTV, SFR and Fuerza Roja, and you can see the week 1 upgrades, a lot of successes, but the main story, BFX rolling a 1 and getting 0 upgrades. We are just heading into the final lap of this new qualifying format. It sees no tyre wear. Drivers have 3 minutes to have 6 straight laps to absolutely hull themselves at the thing, at the chance of getting pole position, and of course, if you perform a little bit quicker, there is the off chance that you might just get an extra lap time in, but I don't think we'll see that, because as we can see, the leader of the qualifying session, as the clock runs out, Grandi takes the checkered flag, but Abfa on the line looks to have stolen pole position. What a fantastic lap from the Russian driver, and I think he's just about managed it. We'll see the rest of the drivers coming in. Kado will be the last, the new Team Velocity driver, and we'll get straight to the grid. Abfa took pole position, the Fox driver who finished 1-2 with Fox here last season, taking his first career win on his Ultimate Virtual debut, starts from pole position here today. He's ahead of Antti. I believe they shared the front row in Estoril last season. Grandi will start 3rd for Thunder X. He enjoys a good run in the early season, and he looks to be getting one here. Jurist will start 4th for Team Velocity. He enters yet another season with the team who he raced for since Season 1, with a brief break in Season 3 to go off and win the championship. Rito, his main rival and his main contender for greatest driver of Ultimate Virtual history, will start just behind him in 5th. Applemazing starts 6th for Porsche. Girouni 7th for Flying V Racing. Jake Brad, on his return to the sport, will start 8th position. Fox, our P2 man here last season, will start 9th. And Kubo, for his new team, his only team ever that isn't Team Velocity, which is a weird way of phrasing it, but basically saying he has moved teams for the first time, to Neon Sunset Racing, where he is team principal. He starts 10th. Kamikaze, on his return to the grid, will start 11th. It's Vladinator, 12th for Superfast Racing, and Not That Guy, on his debut in Ultimate Virtual, will start P13 for Flying V Racing. Andries will start 14th, his first race for Kolos Tvorza. We've got Hemenica starting 15th for Porsche, Andrian, then Pit Crew, Bluebell Boy on his return to the grid, then Sobel and Caddo right at the back, unfortunately for them. Sobel was our pole sitter here last season. So definitely a few things to talk about. First of all, it is the first race, but we've already got some special liveries. There's the Azulejos livery for Eurist and for Team Velocity. It's celebrating Portuguese culture and also bringing in elements of light blue and white as a homage to the WTEC team, who no longer exist within the sport, but took a 1-2 here this time last season. Then we've got, of course you can see them actually right down at the back is probably the best place to demonstrate it, but we do have the Fijian cars in what is the closest thing to a home race for the now doubly owned Bluebell Boy teams. We had BFX and BFZ, with the latter rebranding to Kolos Tvorza, but both are Fijian, and both will be running a Fiji livery, just with slightly different shades of blue. We've got some striking new liveries. Fuerza have yet to finish their livery, so they are running a pure carbon fibre livery with Fuerza Roja in text on the rear wing. And then we've got some other things. Thunder X taking a huge leap away from their previous endeavours in liveries, completely away from that orange and white and black colour scheme to something very electric-y and purple. Neon Sunset Racing, a big rebrand from British Aerial Virtual, who are a very sort of sturdy red and white team, definitely taking a step away there. And the Fox team, aptly named, aptly liveried, they have a fox on their car as their car, really, so really cool to see that. And Team Velocity, not that you'll be able to see today, but have rebranded to a sort of yellow and mahogany livery that looks really rather lovely. So, the tokens. Rito is spending 2 tokens, he'll start 5th. Sobel spends 1 token, he starts all the way down in 19th position. Jake and Kubo spend no tokens, they'll be pleased with respective top 10 starts on the 4th and 5th row. Grandy spends 3 tokens, lines up 3rd on the grid. Apple Amazing will spend 2 tokens, lining up only 6th. Eurist spends 2 tokens, he is in 4th position. And then we have Jaruni with no tokens, very admirable 7th position. Abba spending 3 tokens will start from pole position, and Anti spending 4 tokens will start on the 2nd row. Fox also up in the top 10 with no tokens, a promising sign for the new Fox team. And we'll have one final look at that index, because Thunder X have the fastest car, then Neon Sunset not far behind, then Velocity, Fox, Porsche very close, BFX just a step down, right behind them FBR, then a little gap to KTV, and then SFR and Fuerza both tied with the slowest car. All the rambling is out the way. There has been a few weeks of off-season, there are a lot of moving around of teams and drivers, but it all comes to a head here. The first race of the season here in Adelaide. Here we go then. Under the lights, in Adelaide, we're underway for Ultimate Virtual Season 5. Abva starts on the soft compound tyre, Anti starts on the medium, Grandy's right behind the both of them. He's going to be looking to make some early moves. He gets up the inside of Anti going into the chicane section. Eurist also there, Rito having to fend off Jaruni, and Jake in the background. The old break coming back to his seat, coming back to his team, coming back to try and take a podium here if he can. Anti looking up the inside of Grandy, just can't quite manage it. Kate's a little bit of gravel from that lovely mode inside corner, or rakes rather. Anti and Euros fighting it out for 3rd place. Anti uses just a little bit of that boost and gets through on Grandy for time being, but the Thunder X driver will fight that back. All the while, Abva can start to run away in the lead of the race. Rito is 5th at the moment. The Neon Sunset cars, tokenless as they are, have had amazing starts. They were 6th and 7th, they're now 5th and 8th as Kuba moves up past Rito. Starting on the hards is a choice we see him make often, but one that does quite regularly lead to him dropping back through the field. The sun set here in Adelaide from qualifying to the race, and we got this lovely, beautiful event under the lights for the very first time. So really cool to see Abva leads from Eurus, and it's Grandy and Anti a little gap back, and we've got Rito and Apple amazing fighting it out here. Can Aptly get double pain because Jake looks to go down his outside into the hairpin. Jake leaves the room on the inside. Aptly tries to use it. They're still side by side coming down into the final corner. Aptly looks like he'll just about keep that position for the time being. Gets a good run out there, gets past Rito, get a shake pass, get past Kubo too. What a fantastic couple corners for the Belarusian driver. Rito forces his countryman just a little bit wide there as they try and file through the very treacherous streets of this Australian circuit. Kubo gets a good run out through the top left section and the top right bit as well, and down that back straight. He's going to move back up into 6th position. The fight for the lead rages onwards. Abva and Eurus nearly side by side across the line up into turn 1. Abva leaves the door open. Eurus takes that shallow inside line and he'll get it done. He goes a little deep though into that second corner. Abva gets that position right back. Grandy starts to fall off a little bit, as has Anti in 4th position. Abva amazing holds 5th for the time being, but those softs aren't going to last a hell of a long time. That is most certain. Rito's hards will be able to go a bit longer than that. Jaruni and Andrian going side by side. This is over 12th and 13th position, pardon me. Down into that hairpin, they battle. Andrian looking for a move potentially up the inside to the outside, can't make anything quite work. Fox has unfortunately for him fallen back to 14th place. Kado has made a few positions up to 15th. It's not that guy. Then Andre's in a big scrap at the back. Kamikaze now in last place. Meneka has fallen down to 19th. A poor start from him on the hard compound tyre. Andres and Bluebell, the brand new teammates, both season 1 veterans of the sport, battling it out here to see who can get it. Just a little move from Bluebell down the outside. Shouldn't have the straight line speed advantage on the hards, but he does, but he breaks early. I think he just lifted off there, and Andres was able to absolutely bolt straight back through. The fight for the lead has shrunk up again. Eurus has backed up the pack a little bit. Abva is going to go through as Anti goes through on Grandy. Anti looks for a move up the inside of Eurus. It didn't look like there'd be anything on there, but he did just about get a nose in, and he'll get a more than a nose in as he tries to go up the inside, and Eurus does wheel off into that pit lane. Abva leads onto lap 8 here in Adelaide. Anti immediately looking for that lead, and he'll go and grab it straight off the Russian driver. Grandy, oh, big mistake there, just ends up massively in the gravel. I think his car just got all out of sorts coming through that section, and yeah, just completely loses it, loses the back end and loses control. Abba sliding off the track as well. Drivers really starting to experience some difficulties here with their wear, and Abba and Grandy, as you'd expect after those respective errors, have both come into the pit lane. Going through now is Eurus, who did just about get that undercut on Abva. Did he get it by enough? They're side by side. Eurus on the hard, Abva on the medium. Should have the straight line speed advantage. It's a very twisty first sector where you need a lot of grip, but then it's the big long straight that Abva can absolutely boost away, and look at him, he's absolutely flying through 7/10 ahead by the time they get down there. But will that battling have cost them time? Anti is into the pit lane. He has one of the last boxes. He's very close to the pit exit now. Here come the train of cars looking to get at him, and Anti gets out of the pit lane and gets into the lead of the race. Well, not the net lead of the race, rather, as Rito has stayed out on those hards, as we'd expect that he would do, and currently holds the on-track lead. Will he let himself be lulled back into a fight here, because there's certainly fights going on as Grandy and Abva go side by side. Abva's going to try and hold that inside line into the double left-hander, but he doesn't get the grip required from it. Grandy's going to get back through Abva, just side by side there. And Eurus in the background, Apple amazing there as well. Vladinator, and then Kubo and Jake, the Neon Sunset cars, exchanging blows. That beautiful dark purple livery, and we've passed sunset here in Adelaide. It is fully nighttime, which means it's probably a very nice time for all Europeans to be watching this race, knowing Australian time zones. Jaruni holding onto that final points play position. He's yet to come in, as is Vladinator. Rito now pits down into 6th position. He won't lose any more spots than that, as he has a bit of clean air behind him, and yeah, the clear skies are coming back here in Adelaide. That is most certain. Big fight over second place. Anti not too far ahead of them as it stands. A reminder of the tokens: Rito spending 2, Sobel spending 1. He's made his way up. 8 positions to 11th place already. Good for him. Grandy spending 3 tokens, about to take the lead of the race, perhaps goes up the inside of Anti into that first chicane section, goes deep into that corner. Anti can fight back. Grandy still hangs it in there and just gets the grip on the inside there, takes the lead of the race fully off Anti, but that battling has cost them time to Abba, who's spending 3 tokens, Anti spending 4, Eurus spending 2, currently sitting pretty in 4th, Appley spending 2, sitting in 5th. Those are your big players here in this race today. Grandy leads, Abba, then Anti, then Eurus, and Appley, Rito, and Jake, and Kubo. Pit Crew holding on to 9th position at the moment, retained by Thunder X for a 4th season in a row, becoming somewhat of a staple of the grid, and led a campaign to save his home race into Lagos, which was at risk of being off the calendar as India and Malaysia were both dropped. Not That Guy comes in for his first ever Ultimate Virtual pit stop. We wish him the best of luck with it. He's the final driver in this race to come in to the lane. Grandy just moves past to go a lap up, unfortunately. Anti and Abba look to do the same. Abba might just get a little bit stuck behind Not That Guy. Friendly relations definitely between the Fox team and Flying V Racing. Close links there. The countrymen Fox and Goose, and Anti, just speaking of countrymen, moves past his compatriot Grandy down into that hairpin and looks to be keeping that position. Anti leads. Abva is currently in 2nd. Grandy comes into the pit lane. He's off those softies on to some hard. Amazing looks to be lapping his teammate Hetmenega. Not a good first race for the man who was 3rd in the World Drivers' Championship last season. Oh, we've got a big kerfuffle going on here. I think Abva might have struggled to move past the lap traffic. We do have Andrin and Jaruni fighting over 14th position. Eurist currently sits in 3rd place. Grandy, the only driver to take 2 stops. Rito, though, with how much he was able to extend on those hards, is looking in a pretty good position to hold a pretty high position. As at the moment, Kubo following his new teammate Jake through the final corner. They're running a very respectable race, tokenless, of course, as you can see here, but still very nicely running in 7th and 8th positions. With that fastest car on the grid, the first time that Kubo has really ever experienced the fastest car on the grid. Velocity was always just around that sort of 2nd, 3rd, 4th standing, so it's really cool to see Neon Sunset Racing doing so well. But yeah, if we just pop up the overview for a second, you can see that Neon Sunset Racing in 2nd, his old team, Team Velocity, the 3rd fastest car. Jake is into the pit lane. That releases his teammate Kubo into a little bit of clean air, and Sobel is coming right through, and he will take the position from Jake. Jake, of course, has taken a pit stop extra, but an effort from Sobel to make up 11 positions since the start of this race has not gone unnoticed. It's been a very decent start after a poor qualifying for the BFX man. Eurist in 6th position is going to hold on to that because there's a bit of a gap behind. There's definitely a disconnect between our big token spenders and our non-token spenders, although I think Sobel by the end of the race will be definitely bridging that gap. Anti and Abva in the reverse order from which they started on the front row are currently our 1st and 2nd place drivers. Abva will be looking for his 2nd career victory. Of course, he started high up in Estoril, but didn't manage to make that one count. I think he fell down with a pit stop error where he had to go backwards through the lane, and that of course cost him dearly. Amazing currently leads. It's Rito and Grandy fighting it out for 2nd place, which is particularly impressive with Rito on pretty worn tyres. But funnily enough, Amazing is going to be struggling pretty much just as much as Rito, and he's still got some pace on those mediums. Does the pole, chasing down the Belarusian, 2 neighbourly countries, but 2 fierce competitors in the virtual world. Appenty was a very, very clean move, just takes that wide line and essentially slingshots through the final corner, getting past both of those drivers on his fresh, soft compound tyres, and there's wonderful racing to see from the Finnish driver. He takes the lead of the race. Rito and Appley still fighting it out. Abva and Grandy, both of whom made their 2nd stop. Abva just getting past the Finn. Can he try and make a move up the inside of Appley? Amazing into the final corner. Both Appley and Rito pile into the pit lane at the exact same time. It's hard for Rito, mediums for Appley. They're coming out pretty level, but Rito will just hit that exit limiter first and get that position. Aptly though will go up the inside, blocks off Rito a little bit, and then does a really good job just holding him off into the second part of that 90-degree section to make sure that the pole can find no way past the Belarusian racer. Antti still leads the race. It's going to be Abva just sitting in behind for the time being. Any close battles going on. Amazing just finding his way through some lapped traffic at the moment. Caddo, not quite the debut race he'd want for Team Velocity. He has a podium to his name, particularly impressive when remembering it was in a Fuerza Roja car at the Valencia Grand Prix, which I'll be delighted to see has been retained for this season. The only emergency track from last season that has been given an extra extension on the calendar, with all the others finding their place in obscure UV history. So he should be fighting pretty well in tracks such as those. Antti still leads. He's a lap ahead of teammate Vladinator. It's Abva in second, Grandi, and then we've got a rain coming, which should be interesting, shake things up a little bit. Who does this help and who does it hurt the most? Rito definitely having recently pitted for those hards and now 4 seconds adrift of that top 4 pack, I think will be the biggest loser from all of that. Not that guy perhaps helped. He's only made that one single pit stop in the 23 laps of the race so far, just a one stop in this entire half of the race, and he'll have his teammate Girouni coming in right behind, giving him a little helping bump through the pit lane. Girouni, the experienced Flying V Racing driver, there since the start of Season 2, I believe. Yeah, he has been. No big battles going on in the front pack at the moment, pretty much as they were. We've got some nighttime rain here in Adelaide, and the drivers have to be careful. They're pretty treacherous conditions, even on the right tyres. Jake, followed by Kubo, is 7th and 8th. We've got a battle going on, I believe, for 9th position, or is it for 10th? It is. Sobel and Vladinator scrapping out for that final point. Vlad has saved a pit stop. Good for him. Only other drivers do that, not that guy, Girouni and Kamikaze, who finds himself up in 15th place. No tokens, but that Fuerza Roja not quite as far off the back of the pack as it found itself last season, and particularly in Season 3. So, yeah, not a terrible performance from him ahead of the returning Bluebell boy, who will be disappointed to only be 16th as it stands, but we've got a long way of running left to go in this race. Antti and Abva, Grandi and Urist. Rito is your top 5. Who will lead the championship? I don't believe that Antti has ever led the championship. Abva, of course, will have done it after round 1 last season, having won the inaugural race. Well, the opening race. Grandi led the championship in Season 1, led the championship last season for extended period, but cruelly got it snatched away from him at the final race by this man, Rito, a 2-time champion of the sport now, joining the ranks of Urist, another 2-time champion. Antti only having ever won a single race in Kyalami at the very end of Season 1, the race that saw Urist be crowned the first ever champion of the sport. So history there, and only 1 win for SFR as well, his teammate Vladinator never having stood on the top step of the podium. We hope to see him there at some point soon. Abva had a little bit of difficulty with the lap traffic. Will pit crew maybe attempt to make it difficult for her? Yes, he will. Forces Abva very wide onto that curb, and at night time it's cool, the curbs are slippery, the water's not going to be evaporating. You don't want to find yourself all the way out there. The Brazilian driver will try his very hardest to hold up the Russian, and will do it pretty well in fact, but he does get through now. Antti there, Grandi nearly about to lap his teammate. We've got Urist, Rito chasing him down, a big pack of cars battling behind. Not sure if that is for position. It's Hetmenica, Andries and Sobel. A big triple Dutch fight. That's pretty remarkable stuff. But not for position, is it? No. Wouldn't be, would it? Hetmenica down in 19th place. So actually it's Het and Andries battling over last position, having just shoved off Sobel. And then Sobel up in 11th place, so just trying to get back through on this pack to catch Vlad for that final points position, because Vlad came storming through once he sensed the opportunity for the lapped traffic. Anti under pressure from Grandy, now IRL teammates at Nordic Thunder, but foes here on track. Tried to prove who the better Finn is. Grandy had the run of the green last season, not even a particularly dominant car, it was very much a mid-pack car, same with the SFR, a slightly upper midfield perhaps, but Grandy just doing really well with his tokens, getting the luck on his side that he needed, and he needs a little bit of luck to get through here. Rito is the first driver into the pit lane, trying something slightly different. He'll slap on those hard compound tyres. Does he believe he could take those to the end? That's a very interesting conundrum. 15 laps would really be stretching it. It might almost be worth it to go for 2 soft stints instead. But Rito hasn't gotten 2 championships without being a bit of a tyre whisperer, so we'll have to wait and see. Abva also takes the hards, Anti takes the mediums. Grandy will slot in just behind and take the mediums, and Eurus, one of the last to come into the pit lane, will take the hards as well. Interesting stuff. I predict that Anti and Grandy will definitely hit the front here, but then have a late stop to make onto those soft compound tyres. The hard runners stretching them for 15 laps is incredibly adventurous, but best of luck to them. Abva continues to lead for the brand new Fox team, and similar to how every single driver, apart from owner Trixie himself, whoever raced for WTEC got a debut podium, Fox are going to be hoping to carry on the same sort of trend as that of the entrant who they bought out, where they win in their very first race as a team. Grandy and Anti side by side, the medium runners go. I think one of them just has to allow themselves ahead, to be totally honest. Otherwise they're going to have a little bit of difficulty there. Looks like Apple Amazing sort of dropped off this pack. Eurist also not finding himself in too close proximity. I believe he's only spending 2 tokens. He is, so is Aptly, but the 3 token spenders of Grandy and Abva. Rito is dropping off because he only has the 6th fastest car, even with how tight the grid is. But then Grandy 3 and Anti 4 really looking in good positions at the moment, so it definitely looks like that 3 token spend there or thereabouts is perhaps the way to go. Anti, obviously, it's actually the slowest car if you look at it, which is really interesting, or tied slowest with Fuerza Roja, but because of how close this grid is, because there's only 1.4 index between the top and the bottom team, it's really anyone's say as to you know, if you dump tokens at this stage in the season before the sort of evolution of upgrades means that it spreads out more. I think the world's your oyster. I absolutely think it is, and I think that Anti is proving that by having this podium charge on with what is on paper probably the slowest car at this track in particular, since Fuerza have that 2 speed and there are quite a lot. There's 2 massive straights essentially. So yeah, really interesting strategy just to try and get in there before the field spread does its thing. But Abva continues to lead on those hards. Grandy and Anti closing in on the mediums, but they're not quite close enough at the moment to make a move. Should be an absolutely cracking finish though, as we head into the final 9 laps of the Australian Grand Prix, the season opener here. We're a 12 race season. We're going to a brand new track, the first ever Middle Eastern Ultimate Virtual Race in Jeddah next week, so don't miss that. Grandy looking to go around the outside, can't quite make a move there. Up the inside, can't quite get anything done there, really loses traction through that 90 degree turns, has to completely lift off the throttle, but will get a fantastic run down the back straight, goes to the inside, inches past Abva. He didn't need turbo for that, and he brakes hard into that hairpin, and he breaks the front here in Adelaide, and it's Abva and Anti right behind him, but Grandy leads here and looks to lead after the opening round of the championship, just as he did all the way back in the very first race, the very first season of Ultimate Virtual. It's Abva just at the moment behind. Anti has dropped back, so has Abva. I think Andrews, there's too many drivers whose names begin with A here. Andrews did hold them up a little bit, but they have managed to get through now. Anti's main goal will be just chasing down the Russian driver of Abva, but will he need to come in, because those mediums should only last 9 laps at the very least, but at the same time, you know, 9 laps into a 15 lap stint, you've got 6 remaining. That's not a lot of time to make up. But Abva, lucky to have a go back at Grandy, doesn't go to the inside, he goes to the outside this time, uses that bit of turbo, brakes hard for the hairpin, and he takes the lead of the race back. What a thrilling finish we're going to have here in Adelaide. Abva at the final corner, Grandi darts into the pit lane, as does Antti. This is the call. They've made 6 laps to go, and it's the softs going on for surely both of these drivers. It will be. Andrews also comes in, as does Jake, a lap down. Abva now has this one job of trying to hold on for his 2nd career win. Both will have been here in Adelaide at the season opener, both for this team alongside Fox as his teammate. Fox unfortunately nowhere near 2nd, he's closer to 2nd to last at the moment, but still looking to do it an almost exact repeat of last season, and that would be so exciting to see that. But he just has to hold on. He has 7 seconds that Grandi will make up. However, he is really pushing it into the extent of these tyres. He is currently on his 11th lap, which is the minimum recommended for hards, but this is the window of which you should be coming into the pit lane. This is no longer the normal operating window of the hard compound tyre versus a brand new fresh soft, which will not do even the minimum number of laps that you'd think that it is recommended to do. So it's really interesting to see that. He might have even stood a chance coming in 1 lap later, because those hards really held on. He was massively in that fight. If he had called the stop on lap 39, 40 at the same time as them, or even 41, it could have been a chance, but he's really hanging it all out for the alternate strategy here. Antti gets stuck behind Sobel. Grandi will try and use that to make a move if he possibly can. The skies are going to be clear for a photo finish here in Adelaide, and Abva still staying out there. The gap hasn't really closed down below. It was about 7.5 before. It's still about 5 seconds as it was a lap ago. Antti through that lap to traffic now. The ominous black flares are on her car is almost difficult to see even under the lights here. Getting in the way as lapped cars, but 3.6 seconds separate Abva and Grandi. The chase is on. Grandi makes his way through the hairpin. You can see Abva in screen, who is just really struggling getting past these brand new boys in the Colas Forza cars. Experienced drivers, definitely old heads on the young shoulders of a brand new team. But look at this, there's Grandi, there's Antti. Antti will be looking to pick up any scraps that he can possibly manage here. It's definitely a possibility. Look at this. Grandi with so much more straight line speed down that back straight. By the time they reach the braking zone, it's only a few tenths. Bluebell gets in the way, but not in the way enough. Abva still leads. Grandi looks to get a good run. Abva leads. Coming onto the final lap here. Grandi up the inside into turn 1 takes the lead in the race. Antti hanging it out in the background. Can Abva have any grip left to fight these Finns with? It doesn't look like it. We might just end up with a 1-2 for the Nordic nation here. Abva falls behind Antti. Those hards just went a lap too long, it looks like. Grandi continues to lead. Can Antti take his 2nd win? Can Grandi take his 5th? It looks like it'll be the latter. Grandi wins here in Adelaide. Antti comes home 2nd. Abva in 3rd place. And it looks like Eurus will come home for Team Velocity in 4th position. What a fantastic end to the race it was there. And the Finns finish very quickly indeed. 1-2 for them. The 2-time champions, Eurus and Rita, look to come home in 4th or 5th. Apple Amazing was very close to taking 5th in the end there. But it will be Rito in 5th, Apley in 6th. And a really, really solid outing for the Neon Sunset boys. Jake with no tokens on his first race back in the sport since he lost the championship in Interlagos Season 3. 7th place for him. Pit crew also looking very promising. His teammate wins the race and he can make it a very, very nice 30 points for Thunder X here. He does. 8th place for him. Kubo will come home to take 9th, and it looks like a very close fight for the final points position, but it will be Sobel. Grandi wins, fastest lap, done. Beautiful performance from the Thunder X driver. He called the strategy right in the end, and he takes yet another victory. I believe that's actually his 6th of his career. I think that moves him perhaps into the all-time lead. Or maybe it's his 7th. That is Grandi's 7th victory, the most of any driver, the first driver to reach 7 wins in Ultimate Virtual. He won in Buenos Aires, he won in Brest, he won in Singapore. Last season I struggled a bit more with, I can't quite remember, but I'll look at it. Antti comes home 2nd, just ahead of Abva. Eurus will finish in 4th. It was really a podium fight the whole way through. Eurist, yeah, performing well, definitely. Not a bad race, especially in his sort of home livery, at least, without the home race this season, because he didn't win the championship. Got 2 last season, though, so that's fair enough. Rito, 5th place for him. Apple Amazing with a solid 6th place for the Porsche Racing Group team, and their engine partners, Neon Sunset Racing, also a sturdy performance, I believe. Both getting exactly 8 points, Jake taking home 6, Kubo 2, and Apley the 8 all by himself. Thunder X splits the Neon Sunset Racing cars, and BFX with Sobel in the final points paying position. Just outside of it, we had Cato, yet to score his first points for Velocity, but I'm sure they'll come very soon, especially as this race was tokenless. Then we got Vladinator, who finished in 12th place. We had the FVRs, not that guy ahead of his more experienced teammate Giruni, 13th and 14th for them. A good debut for the Italian Dutch driver. Italian Dutch driver. Then it was Bluer Boy in his return for Kolust Dvorza, the newly promoted team that he got promoted from Challenger Virtual under their old name. 50th for him. Speaking of that, it's Kamikaze back with Fuerza Roja. A similar story, but longer ago. 16th for him, ahead of his teammate Andrew in his 7th. The liveryless Fuerzas actually looking quite scary. I mean, if they performed well, you'd think it's a pretty villainous car. Fox 18th in the end, just ahead of Menica. And Andre's last place. That's a very familiar final 3 to anyone who's been around in Sunday League for long enough. Really, really entertaining race. Great to be back with Ultimate Virtual, and we'll be back again next week. We've got a 12 race calendar over 13 weeks, and that's pretty much non-stop. I hope you'll be with us for all of it. Until then, bye bye.